In 1998, while everyone cried over Grandpa crying and Saving Private Ryan, Terrence Malick was also releasing a World War II film about the meaning of it all. He got every that guy that Spielberg didn't to be in his first film in 20 years. Actors lined up out the door to take part in his genius, spending days filming scenes in the hot tropical sun, only to sink in their chairs at the premiere wondering, where am I? Somewhere in the darkness, Terry whispered,
"There you are. There you always are. Please recognize these different features of a face that is still and has always been your face."
They didn't. Meanwhile, in the thin red line on Guadalcanal Island, our protagonists wonder, where am I? Before anyone can respond, Terrence stares at a flower for 20 minutes. Is that John Cusack? What a lovely sunset. Have you ever seen the face of God in a flower's breath? Who's even talking right now? Anyways, the good old GIs of the United States Army push further into the island. They take bunkers, cry for their friends, and think about the girls back home. Our nominal protagonist finally takes the big one, and Terrence decides it's time to wrap it up. It makes no difference who you are, how tough a guy you might be. You're in the wrong place at the wrong time, you're going to get it. Today on Hinge Problems, the thin red line.
We don't have a song for this section anymore, video games.
Yeah, we can't use our old intro song anymore because it doesn't work here.
Need to talk about the famous Atari 2600 adaptation of the 1968 movie.
Okay. It's Hinge Problems. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing good. We're still not talking about video games right now, though.
Nope. Still not. It's still not a video games. It's not a video games show anymore. Maybe never ever again. I don't know. Maybe. But how's the other two hosts?
I am hype. I'm upbeat. I am the opposite mood that this film conveys. It's Tigress.
Yeah, it's me. It's Shrug, and I'm coping with encountering so many strange fragments of myself that many of which sort of dissolved into solution over the years, kind of like our souls, because it turns out we all got one big one.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Supposedly this show is video games until one episode ago. But now it's a show where we chronologically review the war films of 1998. But in a fun way.
Yeah.
It's a very niche topic, but we're really going in depth here.
Our download numbers say differently compared to our previous niche topic.
Hey!
God, we're going to get desperate enough where we're going to have to question whether Lost in Space 1998 reboot counts as a war movie.
Oh, jeez.
Just for more content.
They can't have wars in space.
No
It's
wars.
illegal.
No wars amongst the stars.
No.
No. I wouldn't know anything about that. Subscribe to the No Rangers Allowed Patreon to hear about Star Wars. So, Terrence, I'm just really sick of seeing Terrence's slideshow. How about you all?
I love Terrence's slideshow. I adored Terrence's slideshow.
Yeah, I'm all about Terrence's slideshow.
Yeah.
I love all of these vacation photos. As far as like names, power players in the industry who take you along on their scenic getaways, I'd rank him above Adam Sandler. Maybe slightly below Tom Cruise.
When do we get Terrence Malick's Grown Ups?
I think Terrence Malick loves The Water Boy.
I can see
I mean,
it.
who doesn't? I mean, that film also has an absurd Southern accent.
Mm-hmm.
What if it was a movie with a whole bunch of SNL alums and we see them but we never hear them?
Oh,
shit.
Yeah.
yeah.
Just what if for an like what if someone's like, maybe if we never have any dialogue from David Spade, we can convey a feeling of grandiosity from Spade. Maybe we can find Spade's nobility in the editing room.
I mean, what sort of pulled me about this film is that Terrence Malick kind of used everything involved with it like he was at a grocery store and he was trying to find the perfect ingredient, which is, I don't know, that makes me feel complicated that that at the end of the day he looks at all the hard work. You know, there's always editing in films, but there's so much hard work done in film in this film and by so many different actors, and then he's like, actually I only need 2 seconds of Adrian Brody.
I mean, it's tough because this is like very much how I would work in a lot of my creative processes. I always think about more stuff than I need, and eventually when I'm trying to pull it together, I pull it down. But yeah, like it's tough. I mean, it depends on how much they were actually fucking paid. Like a lot of these are, when it comes to like the actual actors, I imagine like they got a lot of money for this.
Like everyone showed up for this because he was a legendary. He made 2 movies, which were both, I mean, they're both very good. That's the shrug seal of approval. Love to give completely unnuanced. They're pretty good, kids. Go listen if you want.
That Terry makes some good movies.
Yeah, like they were great movies. They were very specific. They were very influential. As I recall, Richard Gere was like the first actor to ever be pissed off about what Terrence to do a performance is. Where's all my fucking dialogue? Why is everything just a wheat field in Canada?
But that is like the way you phrase it. That is what he seems to do, especially in this film, is the way he uses a performance. It's not that
he's like. He's not going to be like Nick Nolte has a lot of like eating the microphone. Sometimes the microphone is the handset of a very old 2-way radio, but his entire character is like blustering, screaming general guy, so he gets a bunch of stuff to do. So many of the characters are basically indistinguishable from one another, and like one of the major threads, I turned closed captioning on so that I could find out who was the person that had the lion's share of all of the whispered voiceover when it's definitely not coming from who's on the screen. And it's the kid from the ship at the beginning who says that he wants to own an automobile when he gets out.
Yeah, and he shows up again at the end.
Yeah, and he's maybe in a few shots, but otherwise there isn't anything. Like it seems like he shot.
That's the one who got shot and was in the river at the end.
No, that's
okay.
No, like Adrian Brody. No, the mouse. I think he does it. He dies. Mouse from the Matrix dies. R.I.P. dude. Like. He shot a fairly conventional script, albeit with lots and lots of footage of birds and bugs and the occasional, whoa, it's a snake. And then he went, wait a second, I really love looking at Jim Caviezel's face.
He does really like looking at Jim Caviezel's face. Like,
yeah. So I'm just going to make Jim Caviezel the closest thing to a main character this movie has. And Adrian Brody is just like, once you know that he was supposed to be the main character, you can tell when he shows up. Yeah. Like, oh, he's really important in this. It would make sense if he was in this climactic scene doing this, but it's not his movie anymore.
But I was actually like debating that. I felt like this is obvious. This is like such film 201 commentary. The indecisiveness of the voiceover, that it's just flowing from one character to the next, is obviously part of the point of the film. But it feels somewhat misguided to like look for who it is. Isn't like that Terrence is trying to like, you're not supposed to care who it is. It's because it's everyone. Because we're all anonymous white guys.
We're
I mean, I
all
think you're right.
we're
Yeah.
all part of the universe, right? Like, what's that
Mhm.
line? Like,
I mean, that could also be a line. That could also be a line. This film is what's that line? Because
They're all just features with the same face.
I was very happy that we didn't have a repeat of Saving Private Ryan, where someone had to say the line that the movie is titled after. That made me very happy that we didn't have that in this movie.
When you think about it, the infantry is just the thin red line. Hey, or the book by James Jones out in your local Barnes and Noble.
the Criterion Collection cover of it didn't have a thin red line on the cover because this movie doesn't have a thin red line in it.
False advertising.
False advertising.
I was avoiding this, but is the thin red line like a reference to what the general infantry of the army is called?
It's a Kipling reference?
Yeah,
It's
it's a Rudyard
Kipling.
Kipling reference. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah, and it
Jones-
is, I think, referring to infantry. Yeah.
Well, I think Kipling was like slightly more abstract, and like than James Jones, who's never met an abstraction he couldn't. I didn't even read the whole book, and I'm pissed off at James Jones, and I'm going to air it out. I'm going to waste time airing it out.
You're acting like we didn't bring you on board for a reason.
No,
Now we're in a sub episode of Hinge Problems where we've gone from war movies to books that are later made into war movies. So we're going to go
fucking
dive on
James
that.
Jones. He's never met a metaphor that he can't hammer out into the most concrete possible language to make sure nobody misses it. He's like the infantry is the thin red line between I don't know, something and the who the fuck cares, James.
I mean, speaking of that, that's a thin red line between something and something, because in this case, the general infantry is invading an uninhabited island that Japan has an airfield on, maybe, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So the Japanese and the Americans probably can't point to this place on the map. It's nowhere to anyone. It's
Yeah,
just maybe it has strategic value if you can get through the fact that this is the malaria capital of the world, according to every source I read.
Yeah. I got really stressed out seeing all the people just like drinking like water from the creek in this movie. Not that like you probably should be, which is actually kind of a detail, is people are always thirsty and needing water, which seems like an important plot point until suddenly it isn't anymore.
Well, they probably finally got water up there once Lieutenant Colonel Nick Nolte is my dad. He gets what he wants out of them, which is absolutely do not lose forward momentum, because then he won't get as like glorious offense.
Yeah, he's basically holding out on them on the water thing to make them do more. He's a great guy, really, in this movie, Nick Nolte. Yeah.
Oh, I actually didn't even read it like that. Interesting.
But it was also like it is in the book. It's also in a very common thing apparently in memoirs, like E.B. Sledges with the Old Breed. See E.B. Sledges' story in the HBO miniseries, The Pacific. Damn. There's a lot in there about he was a Marine, and he notably fought over a island that, even as they were taking it at the time, many people thought was probably useless. But somebody like MacArthur or whoever had a bug up their ass about, I don't know, you better be sure. And then and a big threat in that is not having water, and then finding groundwater, but it was a coral island, so it was filled with coral dust, and drinking it anyway, and puking their guts out. Then finally getting water up and going, oh shit, these are the water barrels. These are the old oil barrels that an officer told us to clean out in a certain way that we knew wasn't going to work. So we have to drink. Now we have to drink this oily water.
Oh.
And because otherwise we're going to dehydrate.
Right.
So yeah, apparently logistics in wartime.
Not so great.
Don't go to war.
Yeah.
I get a serious question. How did not every single person who fought in the Pacific die?
I
Like-
mean, to be fair, for the Japanese side, most of them did.
All of them did, yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
and to be fair, from my knowledge, my limited knowledge of the American side of things, a lot of them did too. Like it wasn't. Yeah,
It's just the one thing America is good at compared to everyone else is we are the best at supply lines. So
Which then
even
makes
if we
the
were
water thing-
even if we were apparently doing really shitty supply lines, we were still doing better than the Japanese, who in the battle of first time I'm going to screw up this word in this cast, the Guadalcanal, like half of them died from, just put it lightly, poor maintenance. Not enough food, not enough water, no medicine, left to die, but die to the last man because your emperor told you to. I'm gonna back off that point because that's not in this film.
I mean it was a little bit like sort of hinted at when you see the Japanese soldiers because like they're not in good shape, but
I
Yeah,
think it's
it's-
like a little more than hinted at. You
Yeah.
do
Oh, they're in
literally-
really bad shape.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dozens and dozens and dozens of people who look malnourished giving up. There's a few scenes. There's a few little bits that are literally from the Japanese point of view.
Yeah.
Like somebody firing out of a bunker, and
Yeah.
then a GI pops into frame and shoots them. And then there's a bit where you see a Japanese soldier back into a bunker while pressing a grenade to their head, and then the whole place explodes. Like, it's not lingered on a ton, not as much as the grass is, but
Yeah.
it's
I
there.
just love grass.
I want to hit this point because it's still a point, and it kind of surprised me that it affects me emotionally. Where when they finally get over the hill, like almost 2 hours into the movie, and they're all running into the Japanese camp / bunker complex, and the camera is like a steady cam following behind soldiers you may or may not recognize, and like a techno crane and whatever, and everything is saying forward momentum, and it's really cut to just be like, oh, we're making progress, and there's a certain sort of emotional thrill with that while the score kind of rises, and then it very quickly, as it usually does in this movie, it sort of breaks into, oh wait, this is really horrific.
Yeah.
All of these Japanese soldiers are starving to death.
Yeah.
They're committing suicide. And hey, it's time for the war crimes. It never really lets you sit with that until you're empathizing with. Ideally, I think you're empathizing with what was up until this point kind of a faceless enemy.
Yeah. That's something I thought was a kind of cool little trick the movie did, where at the beginning of in the early fights from the film, it is the enemy is almost completely faceless. It is the enemy, the Japanese forces are almost completely faceless. We don't see them. We see the effects of their guns. We see the effects of their bomb. We see all of these things, and as the movie goes on, we slowly get more and more glimpses of them, right? And we get a better and better picture until we get to that sequence that Shrug just talked about.
Where they're just being killed point blank range as they beg for mercy.
And we basically just had and it has a reversal of where we were seeing the American soldiers earlier in the film, where they're having these emotional breakdown moments trying to get up this hill, and conversely, then it's flipped on its side, and the movie to some extent also kind of at the last minute does a little bit more reversal with that again, and it's just this sort of cyclical ebb and flow of who's winning at any given point that really creates a sensation of moral ambiguity that I thought was really that I thought that was really affecting for me.
Yeah, you see a lot of masculine hugging on both sides, actually,
Yeah.
of comfort being brought to your brothers in arms. That was definitely completely not in our previous film.
Yes.
Yeah, it was very strange because there were various not to do too much comparisons between films,
Yeah.
but there were various conversations about the brotherhood thing in the previous movie in Saving Private Ryan. In this movie, there's not that much conversation about that, but there just is that.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
men are just, they have feelings for each other and they just do that. It's not a thing they talk about. It
Yeah.
just happens.
Nobody's like, Captain, we're fucking, we'll follow you to the death, but I don't know, one guy? I mean, you basically, there's literally just one man talk, but it's like the central fucking, the Janice, the relationship that's kind of the core of the movie ultimately is Jim Caviezel and tough Sergeant Sean Penn, Jim Caviezel, who's sort of like seeking when we meet him, he ran off. He deserted, but now when he gets caught again, he wants to go back into the shit with everyone. Seemingly not because he like wants to kill the enemy, but because he wants to be there for the other men. And then when they're in the when they're in the camp, you see him you juxtapose frames of him like embracing wounded or dying Japanese soldiers with, hey, here's a guy just casually shooting a surrendering Japanese soldier in the head.
Yeah.
Like he's this infinite fount of compassion. And then there's Sean Penn, I assume, basically playing himself, being like, you're a fucking idiot. The world is but material. There's nothing greater. Fucking, and you get the impression that he's just, I refuse to believe that there's anything better in the world, and I don't like that you're telling me that, that a different viewpoint is possible, that anyone can react differently to this than I am.
Well, you gave me a different point of view of that just now. Is that I feel like Private Wit.
Private Wit. Let's go with Private Wit. Jim Caviezel. Yeah.
Yes.
The passionate Christ.
Yes. Maybe he just gets high off the, like it's a thrill to watch people die.
War
Maybe
is
in
a
a way.
drug.
Maybe he's Mother Teresa.
Yeah, like that is part of a rescue battalion, and then is me that half a day of being back in just goes back to Sean Penn. It's like, hey, put me back in the game, coach, so that I can't shoot people, but I will stare into a man's dying eyes because that's what gets me off.
Well, see, for me, I got the feeling with him that he was trying to escape, then he realized escape was impossible, and so there's almost this for me there was a feeling of well, if I have to be here, I want to be confronting it as hard as I can. I don't want to be held back. I don't want to be just dealing with the wounded. I want to be there and see it as it's happening and have to deal with it. And that kind of worked for me because he talks about, I've seen this separate place, it could be better, all this stuff, but it almost feels like he's kind of addicted to experiencing how shitty things are.
Yeah.
And
he has to see that in order to understand it.
Dying.
Yeah.
Like the first thing you get from him is he's hanging out with the folks, the
Melanesians.
The Melanesians who sing a hymn at some point. I don't really know what's up. I think they were just like Solomon Islanders who they improv.
Yes, from listening to the commentary, they built this fake village, and apparently these folks all lived about 20 minutes down the road.
Oh.
So they had them walk over every day. And yeah, the commentary is not great. It's a very much much like the film, very much like, oh yes, natives were so helpful and great, and they were just so natural. They just work so natural in the environment because, much like Private Wit, it's like this tourism of naturalism and the true way to live.
Yeah, that
I feel
was
like I feel like Wit, like I feel like the movie tries to, like in the first scene, Wit asks the basically featured extra with the kid, like, your kids never fight, and she's like, no, they do, and she tries to like give an example or something,
Yeah.
which is like, no, you're obviously like you're not from here. Obviously, our kids fight, and then later, like he flashes back to that after the big massacre after the rout. He's sitting next to a stream, like washing his face off, and he sort of flashes back to it like this is a lodestone of comfort. But then when he finally goes back, it's not the paradise that he remembers or that we were shown. Like, oh, these are people. Oh, they do. They're, and they don't like me walking around with my army uniform on, and these dudes are fighting, and this, little kid has lesions or something. Like, damn it, my exoticism, my oriental everything.
Yeah, I really like gritted my teeth listening to similar to producers and cameraman's commentary talking about how great the natives were over the shot of a child with an obvious actual physical malady. And it's like, come on, don't, you monsters.
I mean, I think it's still playing with romanticism ideas of like ideal, atavistic, hedonistic, whatever. But I think it is also trying to interrogate it a little bit. Like it's racist.
yeah,
and
yes.
but it's also it's also a little self-aware. It tries to be. It's not perfect though.
Well, are the Melanesians given any humanity compared to the GIs or the Japanese?
Yeah, this actually brings up something I noticed about this film that I realized it occurred to me that something this movie and like a lot of other war movies I'd seen don't really ever think about too much, or if they do very briefly, is the people who actually live wherever the fighting's happening.
Which in this case are not the Americans or the Japanese.
Yeah. This case, nobody, like these people have nothing to do with any of this. They're just trying to live their life in their home, and there's these two groups, and it was actually, and that's not really what the movie is about. But I started thinking like how few movies actually do address that idea.
The last scene that Wit has there wandering through going, God damn it, my fantasies, what happened? And like he does, after he dies, he flashes back again. And once again, we are faced with this idealized vision of life there. And I don't know if that's supposed to be ironic or what. Ideally, it probably would be. And I think Sean Penn gets like the last word on, how to approach life or whatever. At least the life of an infantry soldier in the Pacific theater of World War II. Bringing a little bit in from the parts of the book that I could bear to read and what I read about the book, it is like overtly intended to be about here is the charnel house of the Pacific theater, and how different people react to that. It's very like Freudian mid-century American novel. Here's a bunch of like cartoon character soldiers. This winds up getting expressed through like the prism of all these different dudes that walk around staring at folks. And in that sense, I think this is a lot more like faithful to the book that I can definitely judge because I read easily a sixth of it. And you sort of get a dialectic of point of views, like Western point of views, encroachers' point of views. We're waging a war on your home point of views of these natives doing shit, but because you don't ever get their point of view, even to the degree of
How the war has been affecting us.
yeah, they're just, you still only get them from the point of view of, and with weird fantasia and desire to die like his mom in a graceful way.
Speaking of point of views, I wanted to ask my three beautiful co-hosts, how did the Japanese dialogue scenes play for y'all? So, and say obviously played differently for me.
The character is speaking Japanese, and I don't speak Japanese very much at all, so I had no idea what they were saying, and that was interesting. I for me, that particular scene was good.
So which one is this? Is this the pile of body scene or the final button scene?
I think this is the pile of body scene. I don't remember, but the one character's like the one Japanese character's yelling at a person, and he keeps like sort of yelling things over and over again, and it made me. It was a nice reversal of perspective, because I think so often we get the sort of Americans yelling at foreign troops, be they in Europe or in the Pacific, who don't understand English, but they just keep yelling it at them anyways, and like it felt like okay there, like it felt like okay, so this is kind of what that's like, and that's weird and that's strange. But then the other scene that jumps to mind with Japanese character speaking is when we get the monologue from the dead character, which is a little intense.
Fleabus, the Japanese soldier,
Yeah,
an afternoon dead.
yeah, basically.
Great job by that guy. That was a real guy. They apparently they buried a real dude.
Wow.
Damn.
Is it the
Good
same
on
dude
him.
Is it the same dude who gives the monologue?
They didn't specify that, but they were like, "Yeah, we really buried that guy," and then we yelled cut and pulled him out.
Wow. Good. Seriously, good on that guy. Like,
because it's so still. I thought there was a mask or something.
One of the things I appreciated in this movie, and it doesn't do it a lot, it's because it's kind of not super the point of the movie, but is that sort of reversal of perspective, and that because the I can't remember the exact quote from the dead Japanese soldier, but it's basically along the lines of like, oh, do you think you're good for doing this? Like, because my family thought I was good. Like,
I was obsessed with this movie as an adolescent. But like, there's a line that's like, "Were you loved by all?" Essentially, do you really think that just because of you're kind and reflective in the way you hold your face, that you're going to end up differently, either in the ground or any different than like a gold teeth yanker guy?
Yeah, and that was an interesting scene for me, because I really felt like that was a good sort of interrogation of even just the concept of private wit as he's wandering around in this. Like, do you think you're good for experiencing all this? Do you think this is going to make you better? Do you think this makes you any different from anyone else here? And it was interesting that it was delivered by a Japanese corpse.
It almost feels like Malick trying to fucking upbraid himself.
In a lot of ways it does. Like, it definitely feels like the one moment in the movie where Malick's like, basically kind of going, maybe this is bullshit. Like,
It's also
beyond bullshit.
Yeah. And it was a weird but refreshing moment in the middle of the movie.
It also illustrates the thing that I thought was really neat about this movie, which is how comfortable it was with shifting like different sort of modes of how it was telling the story, if that makes sense. Because sometimes, like, especially with like the earlier fight scenes, it's very much this like focused realism where it's like, these are very documentarian events. We're watching these people go up a hill. These are the events. Here's shot. This person.
Let's put a button on that, because it's a lot of those shots are the real hills. Like, that's the real Guadalcanal, and that, so when they're in that tall grass and you see like how hard it is to see a guy on the other side of the hill, that's really how hard it was to see a guy on the other side of the hill.
Oh yeah. I didn't know that, but that makes sense. But I also
that's the exact right place to see how hard it is to see a guy on the other side of the hill, which is like, whoa. I mean, horrible too.
But I just also want to talk about like how the film controls its viewpoint and how the mode that it's expressing things changes, right? Like, yeah, that is the literal thing that's happening, but it's also, but like it is a literal form of storytelling, right? But that's not always what the movie does, because sometimes it'll have a scene where it's like drifting from, you know, different shots of nature, and it's not really, this isn't supposed to represent the point of view of a character. It's supposed to, as like, you know, an actual documentarian point of view, it's supposed to let you place you in the concept of this. I keep going back to Edenic, you know, this idea of nature. It wants you to feel that as a feeling, and that's often when there's like narration, and the narration of Wit can happen whether he's alive or dead. Like, that narration is not literal narration. It's not even like framed as letters or a journal. It's just thoughts of Wit that exist beyond time. But that doesn't happen in a fight scene. In the fight scenes, it's all, this is a thing that is actually really happening at this moment, right?
Usually, like, there are like,
Yeah, except when it's not, of course.
Yeah, in
but I'm saying,
different- yeah, in
what I'm
different-
saying is like that's not every fight scene, but it shifts, right? Like, it has different ways it approaches
yeah,
those shots, and it's very comfortable with moving back and forth.
and different characters have their own sort of their own inner monologues,
Yeah.
and their own like visual touchstones, and they're not, you know, the joke would be, if you were going to do a Terrence Malick like parody, someone's running an ice cream shop, and they start going into a reverie about what is this war in the heart of nature, the saucer war against full fat scoop ice, whatever, you know. But they're not like Corporal Bell, who is the dude that looks like all the other dudes but has a wife back home. Almost all of his
okay.
monologue is
Thank you.
addressed to his wife. And you see how, you know, he goes on that reconnaissance thing alone, crawling through the tall grass, and there's a moment where he like lapses into voiceover, and there's a little visual flashback in the middle of stuff, which to me sort of is like, oh, this is how, okay, he's terrified, but people are counting on him. He's going to do his thing. And the way that he's getting through stuff, the way that he's coping with the absolute terror of being in a fucking war, and being an infantryman crawling up this grassy hill to find where machine guns and shit are, is that he has to have, it's like Wit believes in the beautiful light, right? And meeting death with grace, he believes in like his connection to his wife, like she's waiting for him. He
And Nick
needs that.
Nolte is holding on to his promotion.
Yeah. Starhouse prays a lot and it doesn't do him any good. Sorry, Casey Jones.
Sorry, not Christopher Maloney.
Yeah, it's yeah. That's very different. That's very different from. I mean, we shouldn't just directly save it to David Ryan, but just praying a lot doesn't do shit in this movie.
Well, I had the note here of faith as a burden. That believing in anything at all makes this harder. That's the first sentence of my. That's the thesis statement of my essay. I'll get to it later.
How elaborate?
Geez, you're putting me on the spot.
That's
with my
right.
own sentence. Yep.
Fucking talk.
Yeah,
This is your show.
that Sean Penn tries to deny that there's any belief at all, and in fact has multiple scenes with different characters about the denial or praise of belief, and that simultaneously he keeps yelling at Private Wit for saying, why do you have belief? Why do you have belief? I'm maybe the best friend you've ever had. And then later in a medical tent going, that John C. Reilly goes, "I don't feel anything anymore," and Sean Penn goes, "That must be nice. I do, and it sucks."
Yeah.
Which, of course, if you say you don't feel anything anymore, that means you do feel anything. That means you're still you still got a soul in it, and you're just denying it. I had other points. Shrug, you got a moment of pedantry to take the effort off me, take the heat off me.
Sure. Well, let's see. Moments of pedantry. Ba, 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 ba.
I have a personal one that I don't think they
Mhm.
caught. What is Casey Jones' character? His name?
Staros.
Staros, with his occasional lines in Greek that you might not understand. You ever read Homer? Anyways, my moment of pedantry for Stratos sorry, can't say names today. Is when he is eating from the mess, he is using a traditional dinner fork, and not the standard issue MRE fork.
Holy
And
shit.
I looked at that, and my eye was immediately drawn to that's the wrong fork.
Maybe he just has a special fork he takes with him.
Yeah, I can justify it. I can justify he's an officer, so he's like, I'm bringing my special fork.
Yeah, I get a special
yeah.
fork.
Also, yeah, I'm sorry. After I said that, I remembered that. Oh yeah, he does call everyone his sons in Greek.
Editor Rudy breaking in here to tell you that after the cast, we reviewed the footage, and that is in fact a Army issue fork. If you were planning on writing an email, you can just go ahead and cut that off and say, "Great podcast, great job." And as for me, get owned, me.
Stein? Casey Jones, whatever his name is. Casey Jones's character was originally named Stein, and his name was Stein in the novel. I believe they originally started shooting him with the name Stein, like there's artifacts, maybe in the movie, maybe not, where he has Stein on his shirt. And I don't know why they changed it to Staros, except perhaps to facilitate Nick Nolte making the Rosy Fingered Dawn comment, thus establishing that he, Lieutenant Colonel, is the Upham of this film, but also he's in command, and that's bad. That said, commanding officer starts quoting Homer in Greek and talking about studying it at the point, you're in trouble. Probably.
Not a good sign.
That said, in addition to Charlie Company doing an avoidable goof in drawing that particular officer, there are some goofs on IMDb, one of which was related to that, but I'm not going to try digging for it again. Someone was saying that it should be Stavros and not Staros, and somebody else said, well, they probably, if he was Greek, and there was somebody else added to the IMDb under the incorrectly regarded as goofs, while his family probably dropped a V at Ellis Island. This is on the Internet Movie Database. Also on the Internet Movie Database. Incorrectly regarded as a mistake. It was erroneously stated that the term Air Force was not used during World War II. U.S. Army Air Forces was in fact created on 20th June 1941, which was during World War II. Well, as the successor to the previous United States Army Air Corps. Furthermore, the Air Corps Flying Training Command and the Air Corps Technical Training Command were renamed Army Air Forces Flight Training Command and Army Air Forces Technical Training Command, respectively, in March 1942. It doesn't end there, though. Some way down, somebody has helpfully added. Despite the suggestion that the reference to an Air Force captain was not a goof, because the U.S. Army Air Forces had been renamed formerly Air Corps, in 1941, the term Air Force was never used in World War II. The character's wife would have said Air Corps Captain because that term was used in everyday speech throughout the war.
You had to find the most you pant you could, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Wow.
Look, I looked in several men's magazines from the period.
This is how you get shrug on a cast.
I scoured all of my local hobby shops, flea markets, and can confirm many uses of whatever the fuck that guy said. Zero of Air Force Captain. I love World War II dads.
They're so specific.
Are they the same ones that complained when they revised the board game Axis and Allies that like you could do a different thing on turn 3 than you could in the original version, so it was ruined?
Oh.
Sounds like them.
But I have another topic. It's called fashion.
Fashion.
Fashion!
Yes.
Rudy's fashion corner.
Yeah. How much did you all like the those beautiful twill herringbone uniforms? Oh, just staring at them the whole film.
Some pretty good uniforms, and lacking the Spielbergian everyone's uniform looks slightly different than everyone else's, even though that literally makes no sense thing that was going on in Ryan.
My dear wife, you get something twisted out of your insides by all this blood, filth, and noise.
So there was just something I was curious about. Did you know much about how the Japanese actors were cast?
I did notice in the credits there was like a Japanese casting agency that was credited.
So they were actual Japanese folks, as far as I could tell. The at least 2-3 speaking roles are actually Japanese actors. Oh yeah, we never got to that point. So those play scenes obviously played very differently for me because I understood what they were saying. Does that answer your question before I go into this bit? I'm sorry.
Yeah. I had just gotten really curious because, like, they seemed like, I mean, obviously they were Japanese, but they seemed like Japanese actors filming this kind of thing. How do you cast it? For example, the TV show MASH's approach is, we'll just get every single Asian American actor in Hollywood who will turn up at some point.
Oh, the vast majority of films. So I was actually impressed. Like, oh, those are actually Japanese guys, and they had they apparently got. Oh wait, no. I didn't hear about this. So they had gotten a Japanese World War II veteran who had become the go-to military advisor for Japanese World War II films to speak to the accuracy, and he had actually had fought at Guadalcanal, so great job there.
Oh.
So they got a guy that definitely knew what was going on. They probably had a couple whole days of showing the Japanese troops waking up and having breakfast and firing their guns and going on patrols, and then Mr. Malick was like, okay, well, we're just going to use the footage of them getting shot in the camp.
There's a few like sort of impressionistic moments, like a weird lineup in one point that's intercut of just some Japanese troops with fixed bayonets sort of standing in a, I don't know, Reservoir Dogs pose or whatever, and then also some American GIs doing the same thing as they prepare to go up a hill. It's something. I don't know what it is though. What were they saying, Rudy?
So in the corpse scene, he is cursing the dude and saying, "You're also going to die. You are going to die one day. You are also going to die."
Seems about right.
Accurate.
And this is tertiary to my guy, but in the scene where Private Witt dies, I had extreme panic attack because despite I don't know if you know this, I've lived in Japan for 10 years. You can live in Japan too sometime. Yeah, I know. I never bring it up. Um, but the soldier talking to Private Wit is yelling something at him, and I was like, oh my god, if I was in this situation, I have no idea what he was saying. Oh god, I had an extreme panic situation because I didn't know what he was saying.
Oh wow.
He was saying the Japanese word for surrender, which I didn't know.
And
I had
now
to
you
look it- I
do.
looked up. Now I do. Now I know what it. Now, I mean, I could get the rest. He's also saying, "You killed my buddies, but I don't want to kill you. I don't want to kill you. Put down your gun. I don't want to kill you." Much like, what Private Wit would say. And if I'm gonna put on my film 201 cap, I'm gonna say that was all imagined by Private Wit. He probably just got shot in the head as he was running, and that was all like. What if the Japanese also loved their children?
I mean, as the closest thing to a focal character we have, I guess, eventually, and the way that he does sort of perfectly cap his arc of, I really just want to face death like my mom, and that, like, grace or immortality is in facing the moment of death that is inevitable with, calm. The moment that he just like looks up at the sky and is like, yeah, whatever, I'm gonna die, and then he like raises his rifle. It kind of looks like that might have been something that came around in the edit, just because of like when he dies, he raises his rifle in a very tight like side shot, and then there's a sound of gunfire, and oh, I know he's dead. But like he does get that like moment. I think Terry would give Jim Caviezel his moment. He liked his face too much.
Yeah, he wouldn't give Brody his moment.
He wanted those
Oh
big.
my god, that's incredible.
Fucking imagine Brody sitting there in the fucking
So angry.
theater.
Can I just like point out how amazing it is that there's scenes where it's clear that Brody said a line in response to another line, and they edited out his response to the line and just cut to whatever was right after he said a line, and that's like every scene with Adrian Brody in this movie, and that's just
We've made a lot of opaque references. We should state outright what happened there.
So Adrian Brody, he was supposed to be a main character in the movie, and filmed a bunch of lines and was a very active character in filming. And then he has 2 lines in the movie, and they're like 5 seconds at near the end of the movie where he says like nothing important. And then apparently he didn't know that he'd been edited out of the movie until he watched the movie. Whoops.
Yeah, which was what I was getting at before, is that at the beginning of the cast is that Terrence Malick sort of used the actors or used the footage, all the footage he shot indiscriminately.
I wouldn't call it indiscriminately. He's
Discriminately.
he's being very discriminate. He just isn't bound to laws of common narrative
Oh.
or
Yeah,
something.
there you go.
I don't.
Terry doesn't care about your conventional structures.
Yeah.
Like
No.
plot.
So you had Adrian Brody for months and months on Malaria Island, on the real Malaria Island, and he gets cut completely out. But you have John Travolta for half a day on a boat off the coast of San Diego, and you give him 7 minutes.
That's right. I keep forgetting that dude was in the movie.
That's a lot of this movie, is you forget that dude is in it.
So many dudes. George Clooney shows up at the end as like the brand new captain number 3, and he gives a very boilerplate "I'm your daddy now" speech. And
Like
most of
that's
it-
not even a joke. That's literally
Yeah.
a speech.
yeah,
Like,
most of it is obscured by, and he like refers to Sean Penn as their mom now, and Sean Penn's like, I'm not even listening. I'm thinking about my BFF. I definitely only believe in the material world. However, if I do not meet you in this life, let me feel the lack. I didn't say that. And George Clooney explicitly told like Malick, cut me out of the movie. I'm a distraction. I'm really famous, okay? And he ignored him.
And to be fair, at minute 245 of a 250 movie, you're like, George Clooney?
Fucking
Yeah.
George Clooney.
George Clooney?
What up, George Clooney?
I
And he
mean,
continued.
I almost didn't notice because he didn't have like nipples on his suit, but that's George
Yeah.
Clooney.
Like, there are multiple actors who have said, you sign up to work on a Terrence Malick movie, and it's like, yeah, you just enjoy the process and hope you're in the movie, but if you don't, then whatever. Or you are like Christopher Plummer and complain about how the New World was butchered because you're not in enough of it until the end of your days.
Oh.
Yeah. He also said something about Colin Farrell saying that he felt like an egret, like because all that Terrence Malick cared about is like the quality of the light and like egrets, like the bird. But also, I'm pretty sure that was like the last movie that Colin Farrell made, just completely blitzed on cocaine the entire time. So he probably doesn't even remember making it. It probably wasn't even an egret. In conclusion, Colin Farrell used to really like cocaine. I'm glad he's clean now, though.
This great evil. Where's it come from?
But in the end of days, how do we feel about the thin red line at the end of the day? I suppose it's the part of the show where we talk about how we felt about the movie and review it based on a standardized scale of 1 to 5 stolen handguns.
Oh.
Well, hey now.
We didn't even bring that up.
Hey,
Yeah, bring it up
y'all.
now.
If you've ever wondered why I use the phrase samurai sabers,
Well, so we all fixate on different weapons, on our
Uh-huh.
different weapons, and this is the weapon that I focused on. Yeah, there's a scene early on. I can't tell people. I can't tell people apart in faces, but and
All
I
white men look the same.
yeah, all white men look the same. And one of them, early on in the movie, talks about how he's going to get a handgun because they're so useful when you're in like a close quarter situation. Like you might not think you'd want one, but you will want one. And I believe that does come back in the aforementioned scene where like they're sort of shooting up the like bunker of all the people in all the Japanese soldiers. And he indeed has a handgun and makes quite a lot of use out of it. It didn't really seem to have much to do with the rest of the movie other than this guy stole a handgun and then he used it, but it stuck out in my mind. Nevertheless,
it's in the book.
Since it is a interesting, memorable, floating detail, I think that's good for this movie because that's what a lot of this movie is. Like, a lot of it is just these isolated bits that that I think are interesting on their own and sometimes work well together. I have to admit that, like, as somebody who literally has ADHD, this movie very much was not always the kindest to that. I was zooming like sometimes I'd be paying more attention to it, sometimes I'd be paying less attention. But at the same time, it still worked that way, was the odd thing. Because this movie is so much about having a whole lot of little pieces that are sort of adding up to create a complex picture of the situation. I'm a real big fan of this approach, which probably comes from reading way too many tabletop RPGs as a kid. Which is that I like piecemeal information that's placed out and lets you kind of think about it. And that's what this movie's entire structure is. It makes you think it's doing one thing 1 minute, and then it does another thing in another minute. And I think I commented a little bit on Saving Private Ryan and how it was, like it's an incoherent film where it often felt like the incoherent bits, like the message was at war with itself. But this movie felt a lot more confident in building motifs and ideas that didn't necessarily have a sharp conclusion, and you weren't necessarily supposed to feel satisfied with stuff at the end of the day. That this incoherence made it feel more real, even while it was doing very hyper real things, while it was indulging in fits of romanticism with wit. I really liked the experience of watching it, even though I don't have a succinct thing to say about it, because it just had a lot of moments that I thought worked really well and added up to something complex and interesting. I give this 4 stolen handguns out of 5.
I sort of felt the kind of ADHD-ness of this movie was very strange because, yeah, it was very slow. It was very drawn out at times, but it did often present a lot of really like small kind of fractal images that added up into a whole feeling, a whole sort of tone for the movie. I think for me, like one of the things that I appreciated most of this movie, especially coming off of our last one, is the lack of any real feeling of heroism going on at all. And not even like in a everyone's bad kind of way, just in a like in a very much, this doesn't feel heroic for anyone. This doesn't feel like what anyone should want to do or want to be. And like that, for me, that felt really good in a way, like really acknowledging of sort of the complexities of the situation, because I feel like a lot of other war movies I have watched are really quick to sort of valorize the people involved, and this didn't want to do that at all and like actively resisted it at almost every occasion. So that I really enjoyed that. It was so goddamn beautiful after watching the brown mess that was Saving Private Ryan.
God, yeah.
And so there was that part that I just really appreciated. And I know it's Terrence's vacation slides, but he's really good at getting vacation slides that I want to watch. So yeah, I would actually say I'm gonna go with the 5 handguns. I liked it that much. It's gets my 5 stolen handguns.
So this film for me, it opens on a crocodile, and after our first film opened on the American flag and closed on the American flag, I looked at that crocodile and I went, when am I going to see that crocodile again? And you do eventually see that crocodile again for a few minutes, or for like 15 seconds during a montage, and then it goes away again. And you're like, okay, I guess that crocodile was there. It's a collection of images and moments, and it is a beautiful collage that doesn't necessarily condemn or praise warfare. It is something that happens, and these soldiers were just involved in it, and they are as flawed humans as any of us are. We see much more of the different levels of command and the warfare that happens between people that are theoretically on the same side, and then there's the sunlight through a bunch of trees and the grass blowing. And I have to agree that it is a beautiful film, but as someone with literally a degree in philosophy, the nothing circular speeches about the beauty of the world and what does it all mean annoyed the living hell out of me, and that it is sort of capped and structured around, if we just get back to living in nature and malaria, then we'll all be okay. Where did we all go wrong? But also, I cannot deny that it was a compelling watch, but you have to be willing to go along with the mood of it. And for that, I'm going to have to give it 4 stolen handguns, because I did go along with it, even if I kept looking at wanting to go, let's go down that trail. No, okay, because Terrence Malick is such the commanding director that he will take us down the path that he has collected from all this footage, whether we like it or not, or whether the actors like it or not. 4 out of 5 handguns.
I think it's only appropriate that I make some rustling noises getting a lozenge out. And also that in a film that is so based in ultimately unresolved, entirely point of view grounded sort of dialectics that I go out on arguing with Rudy when Rudy can't reply. Eventually. This was a really formative movie for me. I watched it when I was 16 in a film class in community college. I had never seen a movie that was quite like it. I watched it in Badlands. It was a kind of filmmaking that I had never encountered. I was still in many ways like a recovering fundamentalist Christian, so I think Wit's extremely vague, ill-defined transcendentalist spiritualism or whatever really sort of hooked me. So I found myself relating very heavily to this, dude that Terrence Malick decided I needed to stare into the enormous, deep brown eyes of. Now I'm just thinking about those brown eyes again. And watching it, but I hadn't seen it in a long time, and like watching it in the shadow of Spielberg, of course, I couldn't help but compare it to that. Saving Private Ryan, that felt like a movie that was at a sort of meta level at war with itself. This feels like a film that is intentionally, ultimately unresolved. And also that Spielberg's film was about war as a thing that robs us of our humanity, and therefore you must become inhumane in order to endure war and survive war. And oh Christ, it does what it is. So it does this to our boys. Oh wait, I can't actually like criticize the war where we fight Hitler as a sort of thing. And so well, what do? I don't know. Let's play some John Williams music. I think that The Thin Red Line approaches it as there is a voiceover that explicitly said that war makes dogs out of us. But I think that the text of the film isn't that we need to return to an idyllic Edenic nature. It's that nature is not itself Edenic. Like from the opening scene, you've got Wit mumbling, what if we all just got one big soul, and birth and death and creation and all this philosophy 101 stuff. But the text of the movie is everything in nature red in tooth and claw, supposedly Edenic paradise. It wasn't actually. When you return to it, everything sucks. Well, not everything. It's not as bad as war, but still, war is itself. The early line is, what is this war in the heart of nature? It is human beings war because we are a part of nature. There's the image that really struck me on watching it this time was when Belle is going up and it was just because this repeats over and over again but it's striking in the particular case where Belle is doing reconnaissance alone and he's in the foreground, and you've just got this little sort of dinged up green helmet sticking up in the grass, and then there's the big grass covered hill that dominates the central part of the movie. And to me, it's there's this visual parallel being made over and over again between here's this gigantic natural promontory. Here is a sort of nature itself, idyllic and whatever, but exploding with death. And then here's this tiny mirror in this human being. And Witz tries to find some sort of grace in it and ultimately accept, but he only finds it by being compassionate and dying. There's no actual answers. Everyone has conflicting opinions. there's no returning to nature. There's no, unwinding any clock, because nature itself is what is doing this, etc. I was going to mention something else, but I forgot because I was trying to describe a hill. It's a hill, shrug. It's just a hill. I love this movie. It makes me feel things, even though I am able to see all of the flaws and all of the micro racisms and not so micro racisms all over the place. 5 out of 5 stolen pistols by the idiot who needs it because he's afraid of samurai sabers.
Thank you, Shrug. Thank you.
Um,
I wish I could respond to any of that, but unfortunately, that's the review. But hey, Chris, do you have a guy?
I do have a guy. I've got a couple guys, but I'm gonna go with
Just pick
sort
one.
of. Yeah, I know. I gotta pick one. I gotta pick one. have to
Leave
pick-
some guys for the rest of us.
Look,
Yeah, am I
there's
right?
a lot of guys here, so you're not gonna run out of guys.
Even if you listed all of your guys, you'd probably forget one.
Yeah, I'd have to come back later. No, I mean honestly, when I was watching the movie before I knew the backstory, my guy was totally Adrian Brody. Honestly, because I really enjoyed, because he's a very distinctive looking human being. Like, you can't mistake Adrian Brody for anybody else. And so I enjoyed him as this background character who you constantly notice showing up, but who doesn't actually do anything. He made me think of like a very much like a not that the subtext of this podcast should always be dunking on Steven Spielberg, but let's go with it. He made me think of like a much better done version of the red dress from Schindler's List. Like a background thing that you're supposed to focus on and notice is there, but you don't necessarily know what's going to happen to it. And it's eventually going to sort of have some sort of payoff in its existence in the background. But because he's Adrian Brody, he's like that red dress. He's so foregrounded. Like, you can't ignore that he exists as a human being because he just looks that way.
Why is Adrian Brody behind Casey Jones?
Exactly. Like, constantly. As I'm watching this movie, it's like, what? Wait, that bunk bed. Why is Adrian Brody on that bunk bed? I don't know. Let's find out. We never do. And so I actually really enjoyed that because it kind of felt like this weird commentary on how, like, there are all these people who are going through this and they're all having their own like individual, personal shitstorms, but we're not going to touch on them. We can't touch on them. We can't intersect with them. And so Adrian Brody, like, it just felt like there was this person who was having this thing, but this movie was like, well, we can't deal with that. So he's just going to be here. And I enjoyed that. I liked that aspect of it. Now the additional story about how he was supposed to be a main character and he just got edited out of the movie is hilarious, but I really kind of enjoyed him as this easily recognizable background character the entire time.
See, I got lost between him and Ben Chaplin, Private Bell. Like, I kept having to do double takes. Like, is that Brody or is that Chaplin?
Yeah,
His eyes are more frightened. Fuck am I doing here? I don't know if it's good acting.
Who's going back to having some pretty hot cloved sexual relations back home? Who do we keep flashing back there? Okay. Anyways.
Forgot Eowyn was in this movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
that was her. So she has basically the same role she has in Two Towers, but with even less dialogue. Okay.
Oh, whoa.
Ew.
Shrug, who's your guy?
Oh, me?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, you.
Oh shit. Who am I? God, I have to decide who my guy is, don't I? I have two options. I'm vacillating.
Okay, you want me or Tigress to go, and then see if we choose your guy.
Maybe you'll knock one of them out. Yeah. Go for it.
Okay, I'll do mine. Because my guy ends up being a kind of guy. My guy is the southern accents that run rampant over this movie.
Oh shit.
Oh no.
The indiscriminate, vague southern accents that I kept trying to identify. The button to this bit is in the ship scene where we're first meeting all of our guys, even though it's not important and very vague because we don't even know which one of those guys ends up being important in the end. There is one guy that goes, "I'm from Brooklyn."
Hey! I noticed that guy too.
God damn.
So, despite that, we have this giant parade of Southern accents that may or may not be real, and a lot of them, I bet, Terrence Malick was just like, "That's a great Southern accent. I love it. Just keep doing that accent. I don't care where you're from. It's a great accent. I love it." I assume that's how he talks. There is the guy on the boat that goes, "I'm from Brooklyn," and I'm like, okay, well, I'm glad we had established Brooklyn guy as a World War II movie must. But my guy is just the parade of Southern accents. Am I from Kentucky? Am I from Mississippi? Am I Texan? I mean, you don't know where I'm from. I could be from anywhere. But you know, I'm just generally from the South, and it seems like everyone got the same casting decision, and it said, you know what, I'm gonna put on a Southern accent too. And then they got into the stage and went, oh man, this guy also has a Southern accent, and this guy also has a Southern accent, and this guy also has a Southern accent. And I guess we just all got Southern accents. We all just from somewhere called the South.
You know what? I was on the border too, but the one I'm gonna go with, I think, because I wrote this one down in my notebook, was the guy who plays a violin briefly in The Hold before they actually invade the island, and they seem to and the music starts playing string music right when he's playing it, creating something which is definitely not diegetic because there's more than one string instrument being played at that time, but it's definitely supposed to coordinate with the guy playing. So I'm just a big fan of these movie scenes where there's a semi-diegetic string hit.
I just can't imagine guy's violin survives that long on that island.
I mean, I can't imagine something made of wood would survive that long on a boat. Like, the humidity? Like, geez. Like, you know, that's why they don't, why video discs are so big, because, like, VHS tapes just get destroyed by humidity. But, apparently video discs last longer, so they do a lot better in, better in, like, well, places like Vietnam, from what I understand, where there's a lot of humidity in the air.
And according to James Jones, it's a real crowded sardine can, like, hotbed of farts down in those transport boats.
Just a hotbed of farts.
Like, yeah, just like packed together like a bunch of farting sardines.
But which of those sardines is your guy, Shrug?
Which of those sardines is my guy? Fortunately, I still have to choose, but I'm just gonna go with Woody Harrelson.
We didn't even
I listened to the first episode and I went, "That's gonna be Shrug's guy."
Who stops in the middle of a fight. He's like really fucking mean to that one dude that he thinks is faking being sick. I forgot all about that guy. It's a long movie and there's tons of guys. I forgot all about that dude.
So many
He's
guys.
like,
it's a 3-hour movie. It's a 1-hour podcast.
Yeah, perfect encapsulation of so much about this movie is just the guy that's there to, like, you just up chucking, and Woody Harrelson gets mad at that guy because I gotta keep people in line, I guess. Is shown loosening the ring on his grenade when he, and he's taking cover, like, I know I'm gonna need this in a bit. And then when he reaches for it, when there's shadowy Japanese soldiers flanking them, just comes away with the pin and goes, and then a slightly questionable pyrotechnic effect, because when he's midair, he rolls over, he drops, rolls over onto his butt, and then screams, "I blew my butt off! I blew my own butt off! What a goddamn rookie mistake!" I hope so.
Specifically those bright yellow grenades, because at the beginning of the war, we decided, you know what color our grenade should be? Bright yellow.
You know,
Yeah, that was that was in that was in like runner up for pedantry because somebody said in their yellow hand grenades used by soldiers in combat are actually practice grenades, which probably because they're not going to throw fucking live grenades filming a movie, but also like how this written seems to suggest that these idiots yellow hand grenades are
No, apparently that
practice
was
grenades.
for the Guadalcanal battle. All the grenades were yellow.
Yeah, they were all the grenades were color coded, and
Yeah.
then someone went, maybe we don't want our grenades to be fucking yellow, so they changed to green with a yellow ring to indicate high explosive.
But your guys, the ass man. Is what
My
you're
guy's
saying.
the guy that blows his own
Seems-
butt off.
he seems pretty composed. I gotta say.
Yeah, for a guy that blew his own butt
Blew his own butt
off,
off.
he keeps it together.
Sure, I mean, there's a lot of blubbering,
Well, yeah. But he blew his own butt off, so
but yeah, you don't really know the extent of the damage. But I mean, if he didn't die, he'd be out of the war.
Yeah.
So, what was your war-ending wound?
blew my butt off.
You saved yourself by covering yourself with a grenade.
Yeah.
I saved my whole fucking squad by covering a grenade with my cheeks.
You're gonna be all right. Even if you die, you didn't let your brother down.
Will our next film be awesome? I've got our four-sided die ready.
Oh no!
Oh dear.
Can I be disqualified since I made this pick? I feel like we don't want to have multiple picks from the same person.
If you all want to make that a rule, that's fine by me.
I think that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Which is bad because it rolled a 3, so we gotta do it again.
Damn it.
Oh, in a stunning play of like last time, the dice roller is the chooser.
Oh.
Oh no.
Starting to
shit.
really wonder.
no. Okay, let me get up my list of 4 movies. I know which one I would love to do.
Just do it.
No, I'm gonna roll the dice again. Our secret 4 movies. I don't know if I want to tell our diligent audience what my 4 choices could have possibly been.
I had wished it had been me because Shrug said a thing earlier that would have been a perfect setup for me.
What was it?
Oh, okay. We are going to be watching 2019's Battle of Jangsari, a Korean film with Megan Fox.
A Korean. So that's where Megan Fox's career went to.
Yeah.
God,
That's
she was fucked over by Michael Bay, wasn't she?
At the behest of Steven Spielberg.
Really?
Michael Bay might have been the shooter, but Steven Spielberg sent the word down. Don't let her disrespect you like that. He told Michael Bay, and Michael Bay was like, "That's all you have to say, Steven."
Okay, well, this is thankfully way shorter than our first 2 films, an hour
God
and
damn
44 minutes.
I think navigating South Korean jingoism is going to be interesting. I mean, I shouldn't presume that's what it's about, but I'm curious.
No, this is apparently going to be the second in a trilogy after Operation Chromite. So we're gonna get that delicious middle chunk of a story.
The middle chunk. Is it going to have a bummer ending? Let's find out.
Yeah.
So it's the chewiest chunk.
Looking at the trailer for this, I gotta say I'm intrigued because the editing in the trailer and just the visual impact of it looks pretty damn cool.
Yeah, I just chose it because I wanted us to get away from both American propaganda and American points of view and from World War II, and this came up and I was like, all right, sure, it's got Megan Fox, let's find out about it, but that'll be next time. So for me being Rudy.
I'm Chris.
I'm Tigress, and I hope Steven Spielberg won't fire me from this podcast.
I'm struggling. You do your worst, Steven. I can
Coming
take
for you,
it.
Steven.
I'm on the verge of death anyway.
Just shoot the hinges.
Pew pew.
Shoot those fucking hinges.
Totally